Tokyo faces an unprecedented challenge. Already today, 1 in 4 Japanese is of retirement age. Demographic change is accelerating. In the year 2060, there will probably be just as many senior citizens as people in the workforce. The first signs of what Tokyo will look like are already evident. Here in Sugamo, there are almost only elderly people. The shops have already adjusted to this. This nail studio offers discounts for the elderly. If you're 100 years old, you get your nails done for free. But how do you prepare a country for the needs of a gigantic army of pensioners, supported by fewer and fewer young people? How must infrastructure and social coexistence change when physical ailments and disabilities are no longer the exception, but the new norm? For Tokyo, the Paralympic Games are a dress rehearsal. The final test will show whether the hip mega-metropolis can turn into a perfect Methuselah paradise, or whether it will lose its shine under the burden of increasing infirmities. It's also about money. Will the old and disabled keep Japan's economy going, or will they bankrupt the world's 3rd largest economy? In this town hall, Tokyo's first female governor, Yuriko Koike, is working on a strategy to prepare the megacity for dealing with millions of increasingly fragile citizens. The Paralympic Games are intended to quickly transform Tokyo into a barrier-free and inclusive society. The 67-year-old mayor has a vision.
I always say that without the success of the Paralympic Games, the Tokyo Games will not be successful. The Paralympics will not only break down the barriers in infrastructure, but also those in people's minds. I want as many old people as possible to feel comfortable in Tokyo and be able to live independently. I want them to be able to realize themselves. This can happen in the form of work, but it can also be a hobby or a sport. The city will create the right conditions for it.
71-year-old Kimie Besho has created the conditions for a fulfilled life in old age herself. She is Japan's oldest Paralympic athlete and one of the most successful para-table tennis players in the world. As a result of a cancer treatment, she has been in a wheelchair for almost 30 years now and has attached great importance to her appearance ever since.
Once I was in a crowded elevator and an old woman accidentally banged against the step of my wheelchair with her legs. She acted as if she had touched something very dirty and pretended to wipe the dirt off her trousers with her hand. That was a huge shock to me. The wheelchair is a part of me, and it's supposed to be dirty? Since then, I have been paying a lot of attention to my appearance. I wear bright colors, red, pink. I want to draw attention to myself.
The fact that Besho is one of the best-known and most popular para-athletes in the country today is partly due to her extravagant style. Besho has had her hair cut once a month for 18 years. Today she seeks professional advice for her trademark, the butterfly hairstyle. When she puts dozens of glitter clips in her hair before a competition in the morning, she wants to intimidate her up to 50 years younger opponents with her appearance, she says. She wants her table tennis balls to dance like butterflies. Besho's goal for Tokyo 2020, to prove to the world that neither age nor disability prevent people from performing at their best. The gap between health and disability is still far too wide, says Besho. She doesn't feel that she is being taken seriously.
That's why I want to amaze people. So far, I have played good table tennis. Now I want to play well and surprise. I have reinvented myself. I want people to go, wow, She can do something like that at that age?
Barriers are dismantled thanks to Besho. Kazue Yamawaki has made her shop barrier-free in order to keep her prominent customer. The parking lot in front of the entrance is Besho's merit, as is the wheelchair-accessible bathroom. Besho likes driving, especially because it makes her largely independent from outside help. But after 2 traffic accidents last year, she feels insecure in her car.
At a supermarket parking lot, a car hit me at the pedestrian crossing. I flew through the air with my wheelchair. My hand was jammed and I landed on the asphalt. I wanted to take part in the World Championships in October. Then a lorry crashed into me shortly beforehand. My car was a total loss. In the first accident, my everyday wheelchair was destroyed. Now my competition wheelchair too. If I want to compete at the Paralympics next year, I need points, no matter how much pain I have. Otherwise, I won't qualify.
Whether she will be in top form again before the Paralympic Games is questionable. Nevertheless, giving up is not an option for Besho. Before doubts arise, she distracts herself with the beautiful things of everyday life. That's why a shopping spree is on her agenda now. Besho has been a pensioner for a year now. As she always only had temporary jobs, the money is barely enough to survive.
I'm happy here.
She can't afford more than cheap costume jewelry. With these butterflies, the former number 5 of the world ranking wants to tackle the next qualification tournament in good spirits. PR specialist Miu Iwabuchi works for the Tokyo Paralympics organization team. Today, the 31-year-old has an appointment in the athletes' village. Up to 8,000 people with various disabilities will live here during the Games. The village will be Japan's vision of a barrier-free future. When the Games are over, the 5,600 apartments will be sold. What will remain of the dream of a city that provides for the needs of all citizens? Miu wants to talk to the developers about this. The building owners present their vision of the future to potential buyers with elaborate computer simulations. With a total of 23 buildings, this complex is one of the largest residential construction projects in the country.
Hello.
Thank you for coming here.
I would like to talk to you about what you would like to take out of our athletes' village as an inheritance.
Ayumu Furuya is responsible for the athlete village on the client's side. He explains to Miu that the apartments will be completely renovated before wealthy Tokyo residents move in 2 years later. The apartments will then look like this model apartment.
All the rooms of these apartments are on one level. We don't just want to make stress-free everyday life possible for people with disabilities, but also for the elderly.
You really make an effort to please very different people with your plans, even older people. I have the feeling that your social vision is going in the same direction as ours.
Whether the athletes' village will actually be a utopia where the old and the disabled will feel just as comfortable as the young and the healthy, or whether it will be hard to sell like many other athletes' villages, Miu is convinced that Tokyo will benefit from the village.
Maybe barrier-free apartments would have been built without the Paralympics, but then there might not have been a barrier-free showroom for interested parties. The fact that the builders designed this whole process from start to finish to satisfy so many different needs is thanks to the Games.
A first achievement of the Paralympics, But it's still a long way to Tokyo's goal of creating a place for the elderly and disabled in the center of society. Takashima Daida in northern Tokyo. After the last Olympic Games in Tokyo in 1964, it was the social utopia. At that time, the population was still growing, and nobody thought about aging. There was an extreme housing shortage. Thanks to the integrated shopping streets, the satellite city was so popular with housewives that over 10,000 apartments had to be allocated by lotteries. But the dream of utopia did not last long. Takashima Daida made headlines as a mecca for suicides. Today, bars prevent the jump to death. Sociologists blame the tiny apartments for the fact that the traditional multi-generation families in which the young provided for the elderly almost completely disappeared within a few years. Even today, the state social system still relies to a large extent on the family care model. More and more often, senior citizens with their own disabilities are now caring for their partners. When Takashima Daida opened its doors, almost only young families moved in. Today, half of the 16,000 inhabitants are over 65. Former dream cities like Takashima Daida are experiencing the challenges of aging. 53-year-old Hiro Iwata is one of 4.6 million Japanese suffering from dementia. With the demographic change, the number of dementia patients will rise to about 7 million in the next 10 years. Care facilities are already bursting at the seams. Like many dementia patients, Iwata lives alone. 6 years ago, when he was still working in the sales department of a printing company, his boss sent him to see a doctor.
The doctor told me it was dementia. The next day I stopped working. I retreated, closed myself off completely. I am single and live alone. I slept all day, ate, and took medicine. And then I just went back to sleep.
Meanwhile, Iwata has found new courage to face life. He is involved in the Dreamtown Citizens Group, where together with around 50 other volunteers, he runs a living room for the neighborhood. Today, he is responsible for lunch for up to 16 mostly lonely senior citizens.
I'm back.
Good.
Iwata's assistant is 83-year-old Koku Kono, who came to Takashima Daida as the lucky winner of the draw.
Please rub the cucumbers with salt. Oh yes, and you'd still have to chop the ginger.
Kono has no qualms about Iwata's dementia.
Everybody is raving about your okonomiyaki pancakes.
As a former geriatric nurse, Kono knows that social contact may even delay a move to a nursery home. For Iwata, Dreamtown is the most important connection to the outside world.
I am happy here because the guests like my food and even ask if I can cook a dish again. It's good for me to have contact to many different people, not just the sick. Here I can laugh, go out for a drink, or even plan an event together with others.
The fact that Kono worked until she was 80 fits into the government's concept. For the sake of an ageless society, senior citizens are encouraged to postpone their retirement in order to save the overburdened social funds. The later the pension starts, the higher the payout. In theory, this is a good solution. But in reality, many employers send their employees into retirement at the age of 55 because they become too expensive due to the traditional age-dependent promotion system. If you want to work longer, you have to make do with poorly paid fixed-term contracts. Kono says she had no choice. She has minimal pension rights because she could only accept poorly paid part-time jobs because of her family. She is very pessimistic about the future, especially for women.
If my husband were to die, I wonder if I could make a living on my survivor's pension. I don't think that the situation for women will change because the government just can't do it. It's difficult for women to find work in Japan. There are no women in high positions. Women know that they have no chance anyway.
Hello.
Hello.
Come in.
Is it yummy?
Kyoko Yamazaki is responsible for the accounts. Like Konu, the 27-year-old has decided to live as a housewife. Working at Dreamtown gives her the feeling that she is still actively involved in social life.
Here I can see at which points age makes life difficult for you. I learned something about diseases I didn't know about until now. I can pass this knowledge on to my children. That's great.
For the visitors, Dreamtown is more than a cheap cafe. Most of them live alone. For many, the conversations at the community tables are the first words they exchange today. Most of the men, who never learned to cook due to the traditional division of labor in the family, would probably have missed lunch without Dreamtown. The distribution of roles in Kyoko's generation is no longer quite so stereotypical. According to official statistics, almost 70% of all women work nowadays. But this includes a large group of mothers who work as low-paid, part-time and temporary workers, far below their educational level. Kyoko has to leave. She has to pick up her daughter from kindergarten. Full daycare is rare. This is another reason why many mothers don't return to work after their maternity leave. Kyoko also believes that Japanese employers have no understanding of maternal responsibilities. That's why the former doctor's assistant doesn't consider working an option for the time being.
Bye-bye.
For decades, you would only find housewives in bedroom communities like Takashima Daida during the daytime. Until the economic crisis slowed down Japan's growth permanently in the early 1990s, Nippon's men were corporate samurai who sat in their offices until late at night and barely saw their children. Many companies still expect this dedication from their employees today. Kyoko wants her husband to spend time with his children. Her husband Jun would also like to play his father role more actively. When he's free, like today, he helps out. But on most days, his job as a professional soldier leaves him no time for fatherly tasks.
In Japan, it is normal for work to come before family. If you work, that's the way it is. There was a time when my husband came home once a week at the most. At that time, our eldest was only 2. At that age, children forget so quickly. She didn't even know who he was anymore.
Even if Jun sometimes acts a little clumsy with his children, he at least tries to establish a relationship with them. There is an old joke where a child asks his mother who this visiting stranger is. Kyoko knows from the elderly men at Dreamtown Cafe that the joke reflects a sad normality in the generation of today's pensioners. Lately, Kyoko has been worrying about the future. During the period of economic growth, fathers were able to feed their family on their own. And there were enough young people so that nobody had to worry about their state pension.
I'm worried about my future, but my kids are going to be even worse off. If things go on like this, I will probably not get a pension. We have to save money, or speculate on my husband's severance pay, or he simply has to continue working.
Despite their fears for the future, the Yamazakis are building a house. They will have to spend all their savings for this middle-class dream. The house will be their only financial security in the long run. As paradoxical as it may sound, precisely because they don't believe in a comfortable pensioner's life for their generation, they are concentrating fully on the present. They will move house during the Olympic Games. Kyoko is looking forward to the Paralympics, but it's nothing more than an exciting sporting event to her. She doesn't believe in social change.
I think that old and disabled people are still strongly discriminated against. They say that you have to hide disabled people in your own family. People pretend they don't exist, because otherwise the other family members have no chance on the marriage market. If Japan is really to change, then these prejudices would have to be overcome through a proper education for our children. Then social change would perhaps be a matter of time.
After almost 50 years, Takashi Madaida's days as a dream city are over. Although the operating company makes every effort to ensure that renovations are barrier-free for the elderly, the major social problems, such as loneliness and poverty, can't be solved by infrastructural measures. Even if they don't believe in change, it is Dreamtown's volunteers who turn the failed utopia into a place of hope. Craig Spence wants to turn Japan into a role model for the world. He belongs to a handful of people who know the recipe for success at the Paralympics. The 40-year-old is media director of the International Paralympic Committee. Every few weeks, he flies from the IPC headquarters in Bonn to Tokyo. Craig's job is to teach the local organizers how to make the games spectacular.
It's a lot of hard work, it's a lot of travel, but it's worth it because what we do changes society. The Paralympic Games is the world's #1 sporting event for driving social inclusion, and when you see the event, when it happens with millions of spectators, billions of TV viewers, but you see how we change attitudes towards disability, then it's all worth it.
1.5 years before the opening ceremony, the Tokyo organisers are well on schedule, but there are things that are weighing heavily on Craig's mind. He has an appointment with Miu Iwabuchi.
Hi, how are you? Are you well?
Miu is one of Craig's closest confidants in Tokyo. That's why Craig wants Miu to supervise the preparation of the kick-off event, the last big event 1 year before the opening ceremony. Because it's this event that determines how well ticket sales will start. Craig has an idea. He wants to promote the event with a photo that goes around the world and gives everyone the feeling that Tokyo will host the best Paralympics of all time.
An idea is whether we can find a really tall building, which should be easy in the city, and I want to create Paralympic sport on the top of it, get a drone and take some pictures over the city. So if you could work with me in finding that, that would be amazing.
Yeah, we are now trying to aim to that day to launch the ticketing sales, hopefully.
We need to get the ticket sales on, because the more people who come to see the games, the more chance there is of them changing their attitudes towards disability. We can't tell people to change their attitudes. By seeing the sport is the only time that you can do it, really.
Para-sportswoman Kimi Besho doesn't want to rest anymore, even if her injuries have not yet healed. The next qualification tournament is scheduled in a few weeks, and Besho urgently needs points.
I have no feeling in my legs. That's why I made these ribbons. They are moths. The butterflies become moths, and I become a beast in the match. Whenever I sew something, I do it with thoughts like these.
At the last Paralympics in Rio, Besho finished 5th at the age of 68, although most of her opponents are in their 20s and 30s. Despite her injuries, Besho hopes for a medal in Tokyo. She trains for up to 4 hours a day. For a place on the winner's podium, she has to rely on technique to compensate for her slow reactions due to her age and injuries.
In table tennis, it doesn't matter if you're 20 or 50.
Right. Tempo changes are the key. Young people are strong when the balls are fast, but when the ball suddenly returns slowly, they take it immediately.
Lunch break. After training, Beshel prefers to eat in the new sports and meeting centre for senior citizens and disabled people, which is only a few minutes away by car. In addition to the good food, she looks forward to the spontaneous encounters.
Hello. Well done.
I'm just practicing a little bit.
Beshel has never seen 78-year-old Yoshio Ohara before.
How about a match?
Yes.
In her hometown of Akashi, a small town in western Japan, Beshel is a local celebrity.
You have to come closer to the table.
I watch you on TV. I've always wanted to see you practice live.
A few weeks after the opening, not only pensioners and disabled people gather here. Encounters like this spontaneous match just now give Beshel strength. She hopes that these encounters between handicapped and healthy, old and young, will open new horizons for the visitors.
I want this centre to be a place where people get active, an inspiring place. If there is a calligraphy teacher among the table tennis players, for example, he might also get his fellow players interested. You are never too old. I think people should think much more about what they can do because they are old.
This centre exists thanks to Beshel. She had to fight for it for years. Beshel believes that the Paralympics have certainly contributed to the fact that the city administration has finally reacted. Since the Games were awarded to Tokyo in 2013, Japan has been working hard to dismantle infrastructure barriers. Everything that is newly built must be barrier-free thanks to new requirements, like this suburban train station. This new Olympic Stadium will also set an example in terms of physical accessibility. One of the biggest Olympic challenges is barrier-free hotel rooms. According to official estimates, Tokyo will need 850 wheelchair-accessible rooms per day during the Games. A year before the opening ceremony, 300 rooms are still missing, so large hotels are now required to widen the doors of some standard rooms to allow wheelchairs to pass through. If Tokyo can accommodate its disabled Olympic guests comfortably, that would be a long-term success, because disabled tourists are still virtually non-existent in Japan. 30-year-old Toshiya Kakiuchi has turned his experiences with disability into a business. He advises companies in matters of inclusion. For example, how they can make their infrastructure accessible for the handicapped. The order situation of his company is a barometer for the degree to which awareness has increased. He is not 100% happy with the latest Olympic inclusion offensive.
When I say that I don't need any help, the railroad employees still want to help me. But I don't need their help. I find this urge to help exaggerated. People probably think that they have to help somehow. They still believe that you can't let people with disabilities travel on their own.
May I help you?
No thanks, everything is fine.
Have a good trip.
Even before Tokyo got the Games, the railway network was one of the most accessible in the world. Until the opening ceremony, Tokyo's largest metro operator and Paralympics sponsor, Tokyo Metro, wants to convert 98% of its 179 stations into wheelchair-accessible stations. The fact that Kakiuchi can travel by train without outside help is partly due to the fact that the gap between train and platform is now so small that he can easily drive his wheelchair in. Kakiuchi suffers from a hereditary disease that doesn't allow his bones to grow properly. He still has dreams for the future, as he feels blessed by his handicap. Gotanda, a popular business district in the heart of Tokyo. 3 days ago, Kakeuchi's company moved here because the old office was too small. Today, Kakeuchi makes a small detour because he wants to test his newest project, an app with a digital map showing where physical barriers have already disappeared. It shows wheelchair ramps, menus in Braille, and foreign languages spoken in a shop. The app is free of charge. Every user can contribute to the information so that more and more elderly and disabled people are encouraged to go out.
I'm surprised myself how many shops are wheelchair accessible. I never noticed that before. But now so many people upload their information to our app. We already have 150,000 to 160,000 entries. The information comes from very different places and about very different types of shops. This app shows how Japan is becoming barrier-free bit by bit.
In the near future, Kakeuchi wants to make money with his app. He wants to integrate an online reservation system that saves the special requirements of each customer and guarantees that everyone is received according to their needs.
I'm back.
10 years after Kakeuchi founded Mirairo as a student startup, he has 60 employees. 7 of them have disabilities. That is almost 12%. This puts Mirairo well above the new government target of 2.2% for large companies. Even this modest goal is wishful thinking. In fact, only 1.9% of employees in Japan have a disability, despite hefty penalties. But it was not easy for Kakeuchi to recruit so many disabled employees.
There are currently so many companies and government agencies that want to hire people with disabilities, but the problem is that the level of education is often insufficient. You cannot hire them without good training. Of course, there are also companies that do not want to employ people with disabilities, but there are also many that would like to employ them, but cannot find suitable candidates. Something has to happen on both sides.
Kakeuchi's brother, Takafumi, is responsible for the technical design of the Mirairo products. Takafumi has the same disease, but he needs care. A life of state transfer payments to which he would have been entitled as a person in need of care is out of the question for the brothers. The Kakeuchis hope that their approach of turning handicaps into values will find many imitators, also for the sake of their personal future.
I will pass on my illness to my children. At the end of our lives, I want my children and myself to be able to say that we were blessed precisely because we were handicapped.
Paralympic specialist Craig Spence believes that he can fulfill the future dreams of the Kakeuchis. His credo is that the more successful the Games, the greater the social change. Craig wants Tokyo 2020 to be even better than London 2012, the first Paralympic Games in history, where more than 90% of the tickets were sold. Craig was also in charge of the London Games. Back then, he commissioned a research on how the Games changed society.
The biggest legacy, I think, in terms of Paralympic legacy is the fact that we changed 1 in 3 attitudes towards disability. I think very few people thought that when we put the Games into London that we could change attitudes so much. But to change 1 in 3 people, that's equivalent to 20 million people. There's now 1 million persons with a disability now in employment extra as a result of the Games in the last 7 years since the Games. So that's a huge legacy for us.
Robots like this may help to create more jobs for disabled and old Japanese people in the future. The Neo is supposed to dismantle physical strength barriers. His inventors dream of a society in which everyone, whether young, old, male, female, disabled or able-bodied, can do the same physical work with the help of high tech. Those who wear the Neo can not only lift this beer crate effortlessly, but also clear away debris after an earthquake, for example. However, the Neo is still a prototype, and the Superman deployment of senior citizens and disabled people is a dream of the future. The Neo is Hiromichi Fujimoto's idea. To realize his dream of superhuman powers for all, he founded Autun as an in-house venture of the Panasonic Group. His exoskeletons, whose motors support lifting, bending, and carrying movements, are already being used in real workplaces. Fujimoto hopes that his products will help compensate for the ever-increasing labor shortage caused by demographic change. In agriculture, he says, his robots could be of great service. With an average age of 67, farmers are among the most affected by aging. Fujimoto believes that when physical boundaries disappear, we will also come closer to our social ideals.
If we tune our powers, we also free ourselves a little from gravity. Futurologists say that if we renounce gravity, we will develop completely new abilities. I think we will then have more inner peace. Until now, we had to use a lot of energy to concentrate on the respective activity. We could not use this concentration for our environment. I think if we can do that, then our society will become more empathetic. This could be the thing that catapults humanity to the next stage of evolution.
Instead of high-tech, the entrepreneur Kakeuchi and his team rely on traditional soft skills for social change. Today, they teach these taxi drivers how to take care of old or disabled customers without violating their dignity.
We are Yamada.
And Kakeuchi.
We could also be comedians.
We're almost the same size.
Once you have seen the world through the eyes of an affected person, you can imagine when and what kind of help is appropriate, according to Kakeuchi's credo. That is why today the taxi drivers learn to drive wheelchairs.
Wow, you're doing great. Really smooth. Try this. Wow.
1 year before the Paralympic Games, Kakeuchi's seminars are finding a huge market in more and more industries. Katsutaka Tomita is the first taxi entrepreneur to book Kakeuchi's seminar because he knows that many taxi drivers still don't transport disabled people. Tomita pays about €130 per participant for this inclusion lesson.
Japan's accessibility currently has no soul. I believe all of us, including our company, must work to break down our inner barriers. I think it also offers us a lot of business opportunities. Now, we have these new wheelchair-accessible taxis, but that doesn't mean that everyone who didn't leave the house before suddenly uses our taxis. We need to do more advertising, including attending seminars like this today. We have to make it clear to potential customers that we are actually prepared for them.
These senior suits provide stiff knees and limited visibility.
That's scary. Really tough.
It's often hard to see what makes life difficult for old people who appear healthy at first glance. That's why Kakeuchi lets his seminar participants experience how arduous everyday life is for Tokyo's pensioners. Tomita hopes that this experience will inspire him to create new offers for the elderly. The first shift after Kakeuchi's seminar, the 63-year-old Hiroaki Kaneko is eager to test his new knowledge. The trained hotelier has been driving taxis for 25 years. He has always had a queasy feeling about disabled passengers. That has now finally gone.
In the seminar, I finally heard the opinion of handicapped people firsthand. I noticed that we look down on healthy disabled people.
目線が高かったのかなというのは非常に感じましたね。
On average, Kaneko takes disabled passengers 3 times a month. In his new taxi, the passenger can remain in his wheelchair. However, Kaneko needs a little help for this. On quiet days like today, he practices so that the handles sit securely. He has been doing a lot of thinking after Kakiuchi's seminar.
Small people, like Mr. Kakiuchi, or children, cannot use these handles for getting out because they hang much too high. I want to discuss this with my company and ask my boss to talk to the manufacturer if he can install a second belt or change the whole construction somehow.
Sometimes Paralympics organizer Miu Iwabuchi fears the Games are a mission impossible. She couldn't even find a skyscraper for the commercial photo Craig ordered because ball sports on roof terraces are too dangerous. Now Miu wants the Tokyo Tower as a substitute location. For the photo shoot, she wants to bring the Iranian weightlifter Siamand Rahman to Tokyo.
Rather than just a man in a wheelchair being a tourist in Tokyo.
I think we need to show what this athlete would do, what for.
Great photos are important, Craig explains on the way to the office, but the most important thing is that people watch the Games. Only then will Japan change. More than 200 table tennis athletes from all over the world want to score points for their Paralympics qualifiers in Tokyo today. So does Kimi Besho.
I want to win. It'll work out.
Para-table tennis has never had so much media interest. Besho will play against a competitor from Hong Kong who has played in the top league for much longer than she has.
This is where I wrote down my competitor's style. It's quite a lot of text. What her weak points are and why I lost.
Now things are getting serious for Besho. Physically, she's still not in top form. Instead, she relies on mental strength.
That's my trick. Take your time, read your opponent, get the ball on course, hit back, and welcome! Everybody may come and watch.
First point for Besho. A good start. The coach is happy too.
You're always one step ahead. Perfect.
Besho has her opponent, who is more than 20 years younger, fully under control. 3-0 for Besho. She has come a little closer to her Olympic dream. In the grandstand, Besho has apparently made some of the magic impression that the Paralympic organisers hope will bring about social change.
You totally forget her age. Although she is in a wheelchair, she competes against the whole world. I'd like to be able to do something like that.
Besho has never had so much media attention.
You have participated 4 times already. Are you looking forward to the Games?
Besho enjoys being in the limelight. But most of all, she is happy that she has amazed the generation of her grandchildren.
These kids are impressed because they see how a grandma gives everything. It's normal for young people to do that. I'm happy that children come to watch. That gives me courage.
Today is Miu's big day. Now it's up to her and her crew whether Tokyo starts the countdown year of the final spurt with a photo that has the power to change Japan. Miu wants the German world record jumper Markus Rehm in front of the Tokyo Tower. But it's been raining since last week. Because Marcus only has limited time, Mew decided for a studio shoot, Plan C.
The ultra-curved prosthesis comes across as totally iconic. It's super cool to see it like this.
Short break for Marcus. Everyone is waiting for Craig. He just landed in Tokyo and is on his way to the studio.
Look at that.
Marcus, you're standing in front of Tokyo Tower.
Yeah, perfect. Haven't seen it live.
Thank you.
Craig gave his approval, but is Plan C enough to top London?
You can't always replicate everything from games to games. So far, the organising committee here in Tokyo has been absolutely superb. The interest levels, the awareness levels, the knowledge levels of the athletes and the sport is far higher with 1 year to go here for Tokyo 2020 than it was 1 year to go to London 2012.
Oh my goodness. All I know. Cool. 超かっこいいですね。
For Mew, the most important thing is that the athletes play the leading role in the photo.
I think we've created something much more magical than I ever thought possible. When I think that we are now showing these photos to the world, showing people that these athletes will perform miracles in the city next year, I get goosebumps.
奇跡を起こすっていうのを見せれるんだっていうふうに思うとなんかちょっと鳥肌が立ちます。ゾクゾクしちゃう。
The big day's here. It's 35 degrees. There's no shade. Maybe that's why there's so little going on. But it will also get hot during the games next year. Not the best omen. In a few minutes, Marcus Reim will try to break his own long jump world record. All the big national and international media are there. Craig is proud that for the first time in Paralympic history, a broadcaster is streaming the kickoff event live. Mew checks whether Marcus's team has everything the German needs for his record attempt. The dementia patient Iwata from Takashima Daida came despite the heat and brought along a Dreamtown girlfriend. Marcus is ready.
$8.50. Congratulations! New long jump world record.
This fan meeting was not part of the protocol.
My disability is different, but Marcus encourages me. I am so happy that I was able to shake his hand. Now, I don't want to think about my illness all the time. I just want to do everything I can.
Craig and Mew are particularly pleased that so many people with disabilities are among the visitors. Craig always found that in Tokyo there were noticeably few disabled people on the streets. He's proud to present this miniature edition of an inclusive society to the IPC Vice President today. Mew has the feeling that Tokyo is starting the countdown year grandly.
Marcus has set a new world record. This is the best reward ever. I am so happy. He has reached the hearts of the audience. If we continue like this, I'm sure we'll change people's attitudes.
The official countdown party. Athletes, politicians, government representatives, several hundred guests are invited. Craig hopes that Tokyo Governor Yuriko Koike will report immediately how the dozens of parasport events she has attended in recent years have changed her personal perspective.
I watched boccia and 22 other Paralympic sports and cheered on the athletes. I have seen with my own eyes the fantastic things people can achieve, and I have always been amazed at how boundless human power is.
It's done. Craig has just received the first top-secret internal update on ticket sales. The rush has never been so big, not even in London.
So I'm really pleased. I'm exhausted, but it's been worth it because we've had a very successful event. We set the platform ready. So the platform is increased accessibility of transport hubs, new laws, new legislation, a greater awareness of Paralympians. But it's when you see the para-athletes in action, that's what changes the attitudes ultimately, and that's what empowers persons with the disabilities to go, hey, that person's just like me, I can contribute to society.
Overnight, Japan will not change. Not even spectacular Paralympic Games will change that. Preparing a mega metropolis like Tokyo for an army of old, increasingly fragile people is a mammoth task. A happy Methuselah society in which senior citizens and the disabled live alongside healthy and young people on an equal footing requires more than just new laws for barrier-free hotel rooms and disability quotas for large companies. This also includes courageous reforms. Disabled people must have better educational opportunities. Jobs must be designed in such a way that mothers, senior citizens, and the disabled are happy to decide to take an active part in economic life and to spare the social security funds as long as possible. But the government has not yet ventured into these reforms.